gimmicks. Yeah. No gimmicks, taking over, no limits. Motivation, the truth inside everything you are hearing. Reporting live, know you feel it. Wrestling is everything that we won't know what special meaning. We on it live with no gimmicks. No gimmicks.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Todd Smith here once again. This time flying solo, and I'm having a conversation with one Miss Lil Salazar. Lil,
hey there.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Yes, pleasure to have you on the No Gimmicks Podcast. So, normally we try to keep things more upbeat, and we kind of like to delve into the careers of professional wrestlers, managers, valets, ring announcers, and whatnot. But in this case, we have a much more serious topic, which we need to cover, and that topic is abuse in the professional wrestling business, particularly males who are in power, who are abusing people like yourself. So, Lil, let's kind of start from the beginning here. Just tell us, kind of give us a little background here as to how this all began, and how things progressed over the last several years.
Well, I'm about 10 years into wrestling right now. I started with APW. I had kind of a moment of clarity over the summer of 2007, and I decided maybe I need to look for a school. So I did a little research, met with the folks at APW, and decided that was the best place for me to start. So January of 2008 is when I started my training. Things were going really well, and I came in not knowing anybody. I really came because of the love of wrestling.
Right.
I had been technically doing ring announcing for a comedy club for a few years, and I had been trained based on Lillian Garcia, and that got me back into watching wrestling like I did as a kid, and I was just sucked in. I wanted it so bad, and so I was like, I've got to give it a try. They have schools for this stuff now, so I did it. They kicked my ass, which was supposed to be what they call Hell Week. They kicked my ass for a month.
Yeah, that week turned into a month.
A week is a month. I don't know why they still call it Hell Week. It's a month long. But we started with 30 people, 30 students, that were supposed to be signed up, and a few people didn't show up the first night, continue not to show up, and by the time we got through the class, we were down to 6. There was me and one other girl. We were the first girls they told me that they had in 4 years.
Wow. Okay.
And there were 4 guys left by the end of it all. So we each had varying degrees of success in our careers thus far. I've done a little bit of everything at this point, and I just got in it because I loved it. I made brothers and sisters, mostly brothers, just because it's so much easier for me to relate to guys. They tend to want to be more like laughs and fun and joking, and I like that kind of upbeat feeling. Not a tomboy, I just relate to it better with the joking and stuff. Things were good. But there was the fateful moment of they bring in other wrestlers to do the shows. We do a show at the
from other
Lodge
indies and whatnot
once a month, and we had done several. And at this point, they brought in someone from down south, about 3.5 hours. I'm not my type, just somebody that took notice of me when I was in the back. I ended up ring announcing for them because about 4 months in, their ring announcer wanted to go to WrestleMania, so they left him without a ring announcer, and they're like, well, she's been on a mic since she was 16. We've already seen her announce. We can give her a shot. Let's just, polish her up in the ring. And so I just ended up doing the ring announcing for shows. And so that meant I had to go in the back rooms and make sure I had all the guys' information and have all their names right, and all the many names and different names they apply to themselves.
Yeah.
And this particular wrestler, who I'm going to be trying to refer to as the subject,
yes,
he was back there, and I don't know if just he didn't see many girls there often, or what at the time, or maybe just was taken with me or something, but he got a little flirty, and some of the guys are, but for the most part, I usually just kind of joke along with them. I don't take it very seriously because, not trying to sleep with every guy in the locker room.
Exactly.
I'd already been told that was a big problem, which is probably why they hadn't had girls in 4 years. And I'm like, well, I don't have that need, so that wasn't an aim of mine. It was just good to be able to joke with guys and be able to work out in the ring, and I that was good enough. But he took an interest in me after a few months. We kind of went out on a date or two, but there were signs super early that I didn't pick up on right away.
Okay.
One of the earliest was, the very earliest, one of the best pieces of bait. So for guys out there who are like, hey, why are girls always going out with these guys who treat them like crap all the time? I'm like, well, because they put a good piece of bait out there first and then they switch. And the bait that abusers use is attention.
Yeah.
Girls want your time. And dating wrestlers, you aren't likely to get it.
Right.
Let's be honest. Unless you're traveling together, which is why a lot of girls get into the business for their guy as opposed to because they love wrestling. So,
yes.
That was the thing. Like, he actually made an effort to pay attention to me, which most guys, even if they say they're interested, they really don't show enough interest to let you know they're really interested. And so I'm like, he's not my type. Not terribly attracted to him physically, but you know, I'm a little open. At the time, I thought, man, I can be a little open, even though he's not my type, and see what happens. But the attention thing, why I say that was an early sign of abuse, is that the degree of attention and how often and at oddball times when maybe you should be focusing on working or this or that, or continually blowing up the phone. Now, most people know that infatuation period, sometimes both people kind of act like that, and that's kind of normal, and it settles.
The honeymoon period.
Right. It's not a love period, that's the infatuation period where you're all excited about a new thing, like puppies peeing on the floor. But for an abuser, that's their bait, but they overdo it, and in the beginning, nobody knows the difference between it's an abuser's tactic and infatuation. It's when it doesn't settle down that you start going, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right, because now it's getting more and more awkward the way it's coming across. The next sign was we were not together as a couple at this point. The next sign I got was I went out with another wrestler who, you know, had asked me out, and he had been very sweet about it, and like we'd had a date planned. It wasn't anything extravagant. It was just like, you know, going to the park, getting some food, hanging out, listening to music, playing pool, you know, something simple. It didn't have to be crazy. And I just wanted to enjoy the day. Like, I had been working a lot, doing a lot of training, and I was looking forward to this. You know, I don't spend a lot of time dating. I don't spend a lot of time chasing guys anyway. So I thought, well, this will be cool. We'll see how this goes. And I'm thinking, because I'm not exclusive to anybody, you know, if the subject dates me every once in a while, cool. If he dates other people, cool, because we're not a thing. We'll have that discussion and then we'll know, but we haven't done that yet. So I'm thinking things are cool. It's almost like he knew I was going out on this date though. So the entire time I was out with this other guy, who would have been, God, a way better choice, probably would have saved me the 2 years of abuse. My phone off. Like, he's calling, he's texting, he's calling, and it's just constant.
Blowing your phone up.
Hours. We're not talking like 5, 10, 20 over the first hour, just like over hours and hours and hours. And I think we stopped at a gas station. I had to go use the restroom. And I think I kind of used it as an excuse to step away from the other wrestler for a minute, because I'm looking at my phone in there and I'm embarrassed. So I'm like, I'm not hiding anything. I actually told him, like, this is who's calling. This is, I'm like, I don't know what he's doing, man. I'm like with you today and we're not together. So it's not like I was dishonest. The guy knew exactly what he was doing. He's like, oh, that guy's such a, he had some words.
An ass.
He might have said that.
Yeah.
Won't confirm or deny. So I went in the restroom to see if I could deal with this. And I'm like, hey, look, you know, this is my day. I've got things planned. I told you, you know, I've got things to do. So you need to kind of, it didn't stop. So I had to actually turn the phone off.
Wow.
That's the only way I could actually enjoy the rest of the day and actually spend time with the person I'm in person with. Those were early signs, and I didn't pick up on them. The real trip is that 3 years before that, I saved a male friend of mine from a female abuser. I knew what all the signs were there, but I couldn't see them when they were being done to me.
Right, and that's how it happens sometimes.
Yep.
Now, I know we're not going to divulge the name of the person who was the abuser. I'm just kind of curious. Who was the nice guy? Who was the one who got away? If you don't mind sharing his name.
Well, I wouldn't say that he got away, because I think he married somebody. So now he's got this wife that he's adoring of. Nate and I went out just a couple times. Just a little bit. Nate rules.
Yes. Guy with the hair like Rover.
Right. Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
I know who it is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and people joke a lot about everybody. Like anybody you decide to go out with in the business, they, guys will be quick to jump on it and say horrible things about them. But usually it's just in fun. And I'm like, I only went out with him a couple times, but he was always a gentleman. Mm-hmm. He was attentive. He laughed, and he was cool with me.
Yeah.
And when he started dating other girls, I'm like, well, we weren't exclusive. No big deal. But I don't know if this is true or not because I haven't asked him, but I did wonder if the subject doing the kind of obsessive hanging over me behavior is maybe what made him feel like, I'm not going to date her anymore. I'm going to go find, there are plenty more girls who don't have this jerk hanging around them.
Don't have that baggage kind of thing.
Yeah. It seems
it's not
like
your fault. It's not,
It wasn't, but I was like, I didn't realize. So, with that person backed off, it kind of gave him full room to like dogs do, mark their territory for everybody.
Right.
Some of which he may have been doing. Like I've heard him talk about that with other girls, that he'd say, oh, I broke up, this girl and I broke up. And then like 2 days later we're at a show and she's all with this other guy, and I'm like, he'd say that he would couch it in the term that she's cheating on me. And I'm like, what do you mean she's cheating on you? If you broke up and 2 days later she's with another guy, you might have some thoughts about how quick that is and what you think of a person who gets to the next guy that quick, but she's broke up with you. That can't be cheating on you, right?
Right.
That was a sign, because I started to find out more about his family history later, and that it was kind of a passed down behavior cycle, that having a lot of girls, having like a main girl but a whole bunch of other girls, and doing all the same abusive stuff, starting to isolate them, try to control so many aspects, like who they're talking to, who's talking to them, get into their phones and social media accounts and pretend to be them, or answer people, or try to scare people off of them, tell their friends and whatever to back off, this person's mine, or in the cases of some of the girls, contacting through their medium and trying to get male friends to hit on his girl so that he can say, see, I knew you were cheating on me.
Right.
That doesn't even make any sense, right, to a normal functioning person. I didn't see this for the first 9 months. The first 9 months, my main complaint, like whenever he did something I thought was inappropriate, I addressed it right away, and that's why I didn't think I was being abused. Because I was like, I'm cutting this off straight on. This is not okay, and here's why. Here's the logical reasons why you can't do this to the person you're dating. But the main complaint after 9 months was, like, you're 3.5 hours south. And it seems like you find ways to piss people off so you cannot get booked on the same shows with me anymore, which means we don't even have shows to see each other. So if you're going to be that far there, and neither of us really has the money to keep seeing each other, and we're not getting booked on the same shows or even close to the same shows, if we can't spend time together, there's no point. That's the point of a relationship, the point of dating, the point of marriage. This is the person who's with you like a lot of the time.
Yes.
If you're not spending time together, there's no reason to have that relationship. And so I'm like, this isn't going to work. But I had this hang up about, I don't want to be the one to break up with someone. It feels so mean to me. So I couldn't do it. I just keep stating the problem until the guy gets the hint and goes, well, maybe we should break up. So finally, one fateful day, he did it. He just got so frustrated because I was just stating, these are the problems, this isn't going to work, it isn't going to work, it isn't going to work, this isn't going to work. And he goes, well, I guess we're just broke up then. Like, in my head, I'm like, oh, thank you. Now you can see someone near you, I can find someone near me, and things are cool, and I can get back to focusing on wrestling more and this less.
Or at least that's what you thought.
I thought.
So what happened next?
The next morning, he calls me up and he just starts talking to me about his job and his family and some other stuff. And I'm like, I'm having a moment. I'm like, wait, what? So I like stop him in the middle. I'm like, wait. What are you doing? He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, we're broke up. He goes, what do you mean we're broke up? I'm like, there were two of us in that conversation last night. You uttered the words, we are broke up. We're broke up. Not, no more of this, no more of that. I'm like, we broke up last night. You said the words, we're broke up. Why are you calling me? This means no more. You can't do that. And he goes, oh, I didn't remember that. And then he goes, well, I didn't even consider us broke up. And that's when things started escalating really fast.
Okay. So now one of the items that you shared with me was the fact that you had an occupation that you really thoroughly enjoyed. And in lieu of his behavior, you kind of wind up losing said job. Please tell us how that all went down.
Yeah, I'm going to be very clear about this because there are people who were kind of attacking me for, people who are friends and family of his were attacking me for saying anything about this, even though I'm not saying his name. So I'm going to be very, very clear as I can. I have a suspicion, I do not have proof of this part. I worked for a wedding photographer. I had worked for this wedding photographer since early 2005. She was a friend of a friend, well, wife now, of a friend. So that's how I got the job. She was in need of a helper, and I came in and helped her with her baby and with the photography business. And then we kind of moved into an office, so she was growing. And this is how I paid for my training, because going to APW was not cheap. It was a $6,000 school.
No, it was not.
2 years. And they wanted like your social, they wanted you to sign over your firstborn. They're like, I want these contracts. So I was like, okay, I don't do social security. You are not getting, that's private information. No, almost nobody needs that. But I work my tail off at this job and get the money in cash, and I'll take every discount they offered. The only one I couldn't get was the tag team one, because I couldn't talk my buddy into coming on and learning how to be a manager. So I took like I graduated one, and there might have been a cash one, and there were 3 different discounts I took. So out of $6,000, I ended up paying $3,750. Still not cheap, but it guaranteed me 2 years of training if I wanted it.
Under Rollins guys who were some of the best in the indie scene.
That is true. And for all the complaints I had about APW, you cannot argue with the fact that they turned out some amazing performers.
Yes.
So with any organization, you'll have your pros and cons. I worked my tail off at that job, doing double, triple wedding weekends, all sorts. So I worked the office during the week and weddings on the weekend. I put the money together in cash, and I made like 3 payments. I came in with Roland and like cash on the table, give me my receipt. I was paid off in cash before day 1 of training. Probably the only person in their history ever to do that, and the only person whose social security number he doesn't have, because I paid it off in cash.
Look at you.
I talked him into it because he hadn't had a girl in 4 years, and he's like, she's my pretty girl. We gotta get her. He tried to slow me down, and then he's like, no, I like all your answers, let's get you in. So that job paid for wrestling training, and I did like it. It was a good, stable job, and I liked my boss. But when I didn't realize it was a trigger, the breaking up was a trigger for an abuser. I still didn't realize I was already being like reprogrammed and manipulated, and that he had been living with someone while we were dating, and that he was still seeing other people while we were dating. I didn't know any of these things. He started making calls to the office. He'd make phony calls, and he always seemed to make those calls when my boss wasn't there. He would make constant calls to my personal phone throughout the day when she was there, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be working. I'm the front office person. You can't blow up my phone all day. First of all, I don't have enough text messages. You're going to take up all my minutes, all my texts, and I won't be able to use the phone for even emergency purposes or to talk to my family or anything like that might be minutely important in my life besides what you're doing. Like, you can't do that. And then if my phone keeps going off, I have to turn it off, which means it's useless to even bring it to work, or else it just goes off all day and my boss gets pissed and thinks that I'm not doing my job. Like, I work at a professional office. You can't do that. He would not stop. So then he'd start calling the phone, and he would make up these ridiculous weddings that they like so outlandish, all these different things. The problem is, I don't know if you've been to a couple weddings where you're like, this is crazy that they put this together, and it might have been cool because
I've even shot a wedding, to be honest with you, years ago.
So like you might have gone to a wedding where you're like, there's some crazy crap they put together here, but that is the couple for sure. That's them. Yeah. Because there is that element, like there could be the very traditional to the very crazy off the wall. When these calls come in and he's pretending to be a woman, or maybe not, and telling me about this wedding, like, I'm getting the impression it might be him, but if I break from my professional character and I say, hey, is this you? What are you doing? Or don't dick around like this. Or if I, start making jokes about it or whatever, because I think it's him doing it, I run the risk that, it just so happens the person has a weird voice and they were dead serious and now they're offended and now they're going to complain to my boss and they're going to get my ass in trouble. So I had to take every call coming in seriously, but he continued to make phony phone calls to the office. And I don't know how many he made when I wasn't there that she caught either. It just seemed really suspicious after knowing now what I know, that a short time after that began happening where he was making the phony phone calls. One of the days my boss called me in and I had worked for her for like 4 or 5 years. So she should know me well by then. Most of the people who I see who come into the office as potential clients, if we end up taking their wedding, it means I've probably also ended up working their wedding. So they've watched me with hundreds of pounds of lenses on, like stuff all around my hips, a backpack on, a trailer behind me, the bounce, the umbrella, water, food they watched me run up and down freaking golf courses and hills and stairs and ridiculous things, and also help the bride with her dress. They've watched me kill myself to make sure the wedding went right, to help them out, like busting my ass so that my boss looked good. These people would never think or never report to my boss that she was rude or she came off some way that was inappropriate or unprofessional, because they saw me bust my ass at their wedding. There's no way. But my boss called me in and said, well, I've had some complaints. I'm like, been here for 4 years and you had complaints now?
No.
I'm like, what were they? Well, your demeanor on the phone, that you were rude and short with people. I'm like, you've heard me answer the phone a million times. It's always like there's a secretary voice that goes with it. There's the thing you say every time, and usually I try to engage with them as real people instead of just a robot, because everybody hates the professional robot. And like, this was all stuff I learned from my mom. She had a very professional voice for dealing on the phone, and this is my thing, voice. And I go, that seems unlikely. It seems more like maybe a couple people took something the wrong way that I didn't mean. I'd be more than willing to apologize if that's the case, because I would never try to be rude to somebody. But she wouldn't tell me who the clients were. I'm like, that was even weird. I'm like, what do you think I'm going to do? Track them down? Like, you've never seen me be crazy. So she's just like, yeah, I can give you a little time left. She goes, don't worry, I'll give you, good references. Anybody who calls, I will glowing report. I'm like, well, if I'm getting a glowing report, why am I getting fired? I've never been fired, ever. And she gave me some time to work until we were done, and then, but I was so upset. And the timing of those calls, and then that happened shortly afterwards, made me start to wonder, I'm like, did he find a way, did he call in and say that I did some things and get me fired? Now, again, I'm saying this, I don't have proof that he did that. I have that suspicion because...
A strong, sneaking suspicion.
Very strong. No proof of it. He had been badgering me at home for a long time to quit the job, to quit everything, and to move down there with him, because then we could go on shows all the time. We could spend all our time together and all that stuff. I'm like, no, first of all, my family's here. Second of all, I don't want to move in with you. We didn't even get dating off the ground. We're not even in a stable relationship, let alone any relationship for me to go do that. And I've got a good job here that pays for stuff. It allows me to get to those shows and to drive. And well, the big thing that always hung me up was, I'm like, no, I've got this good job. Even if I could deal with the other stuff, I've got this good job. I'm like, well, now I have no job, and I'm freaked out. And I'm worried. I'm like, how are my roommates? I'm like, how am I going to contribute? Where am I getting another job right now? And it was so hard to get this job in the first place. And so first thing I did, I went to a payphone. I called him and let him know what happened. He didn't seem very surprised about it. He didn't even try to console me. He was just straight into, well, do you want to come down here now? Maybe we can talk about it. And it wasn't because I wanted to go move in with him. If we're not getting married, there's no reason I need to live with you. Like I you know, I've got roommates to play house with. I don't want to play house unless we're being serious about getting there.
Right.
So I was like, I can't do that. If I go down there, it can't be living with you. That can't happen. I don't know how that's gonna happen. I still need to get another job. I gotta have something coming in. I'm like, either way, things are screwy. And I was just like, the big deal was, the thing that kind of broke me over some time was that when I spoke with roommates and family and everything, I felt like the job went, and if I can't get something else fast, like now, the money won't be there. And they gave me the impression that, well, you're just going to have to quit wrestling for a while. And I just barely got started, and you just don't know how badly I wanted to be in wrestling. That cut right through the quick of me. And I think he knew that when it came down to it, there was a lot of stuff I would say no because of this, but the hook was in me with wrestling. His hook was, well, if you come down here, I can make sure you keep wrestling all the time, or at least you keep on shows and whatever. Even if it wasn't wrestling, it could be valeting or whatever. And that was like the clincher. I'm like, I don't want to quit. If I stay here, I think they're going to make me quit, because what am I going to do? And the job market's already just miserable up here. I don't know. I couldn't even get a crappy like $7 an hour job. I couldn't, like, places that, you know, anyone should be able to get a job at. They're like, oh, you're overqualified or whatever. And I'm like, or they wouldn't even bother to answer, you know, your resume or your application. So I'm like, I don't know what to do.
So what happened next?
What happened next is we talked through some things, and he tried to set up a situation for me where I was with one of his relatives but not living in the same house with him. That exploded fabulously in 1 month's time. And I already knew it was a failure as soon as I got there, because the situation was kind of room and board in exchange for, I already was having to pay out a lot for just the room. Plus I still kind of had a space up north, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to help them out, because I can't fully come out of there yet. There's not enough places to put my stuff. So now I got like rent in 2 places, and the very little bit of money that's left after the rent part is barely enough. And the person I was supposed to be working with, she seemed sweet when I first came, but it was really weird. Like, it didn't seem like she really needed any help. She was partially disabled, and she pretty much got around all by herself. She kept we moved her into a new house, and the new house was pretty spotless. There was hardly anything to complain about. The big thing is she couldn't drive, so I'd have to drive her to appointments or to the store and help her out in the store and stuff like that. So we did a few trips like that, but there was hardly anything to clean. And like when I ate, I cleaned up my own dishes and put it back, and I would keep asking her, I'm like, I feel like weird. I need more work to do or something, because it feels like I'm just kind of living here for no reason, and I don't feel like I'm earning it. I'm like, I kept asking her, what else is there to do? She's like, oh, well, I haven't got anything. And I'm like, this is getting weirder. I feel this is getting bad. This is bad. This is bad. And it blew up like right before Christmas. She went off the deep end. She accused me of hating her grandchildren.
Hating her grandkids.
Hating. Not doing anything to them. She's like, you hate those kids. I'm like, oh my God. Hate
I can't imagine you hating anything. Well.
Dude, hate is such a strong word. Yes. I've only used it for 2 people in my entire life, and there are people who probably deserved it, but only 2 in my entire life have I said I actually hate. And I'm like, no, those kids are very rambunctious. They're a handful. I just cleaned up chocolate all over the bathroom. Don't know where they got it from or why it's in there.
It was chocolate, right?
Yes. Like that movie. I was like, they're young boys. I'm like, you can't get around well enough to help corral them and to direct their attention into stuff. So yeah, they're a little bit of a handful, but no, I don't hate them. They're babies. Meanwhile, I'd watched her curse at them like a sailor if, on the occasion or 2 they do something she didn't like, and I'm like, holy crap, you're accusing me of hating these kids, and I'm listening to you curse at them worse than a grown man. It was just crazy. And I was just like, I don't know what to make of this. Sometimes she's really sweet, and then sometimes her temper just would go crazy. I feel so uncomfortable here. This definitely is not a good situation. I could sense more and more things were going wrong. He was doing more in the manipulating and like isolating, and he was controlling more stuff. He actually got to the point where he got pissed that I couldn't upgrade the phone because I only had so many minutes. And he would take up so much time just calling me constantly while I was supposed to be working that there was no minutes left. Like I actually ran out, like the phone doesn't work anymore. I'd have to go buy a whole nother thing and the month's only half over. So he got to the point where it's like, well, what if I purchase it? I'm like, I don't need you to pay for my phone. This is my phone. It's my responsibility. It's not very expensive on purpose. The minutes and texts on there are enough. You have to not call all the time, especially if I'm down here. There's no reason. But he was like, no, I should be able to call you whenever I want. I'm like, dude, the amount of time you call me, my friends and family can't even call. But he was just like insisting, I have to pay for it because then I can have as many minutes as I want. I'm like, do you even hear yourself? I was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, this is my phone. You need to control what you're doing and back down. But all of that was near the end. Like, that was like the 2 years started with 9 months of, hey, this isn't working. And then when he got afraid of losing me, he assaulted me in Vegas. And then it became suicide threats and all sorts of stuff and every other manipulation. And remember I talked to you about that even when we had tried to separate at this point, we still had like the rest of 2010. Right. And what he would do is even though we were supposed to not be doing anything anymore, he'd just call up and go, hey, I got you booked on this show. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't make you my manager or my agent. Secondly, how can we be separated if you booked me on a show with you without telling me? And you've been in for 20 years, so you know, if you're new in the business and even if you are the peon on the show, if you're performing on the show and they expect you to be there, whether they pay you or not, if you no-show or you tell them you're not going to show up or find an excuse not to be there, the promoter and the other wrestlers get an impression of you. Yep. And it follows you. They'll just put the word out and they'll blackball you. Reliable. Yes. And now they wouldn't know that this guy is speaking for me without me saying he can. They don't know that I'm not even privy to all of that. All they'll see is she was supposed to be on the show, she didn't show up. So he would just keep doing that. There was no way for me to stop him from doing that. He would just go do it and go, I got you booked. And most of the time he'd go, oh, well, you're booked, but there's like no pay. So most of the time I wasn't getting paid either. I'm like, so now I'm booked on all these shows, so I have to, without a job, now I have to travel all the way down there, find a way, and like that money's going out the window. Then I'm going to go all these shows over the weekend instead of being somewhere where I might actually be able to find money coming in. Not going to get paid, so I have absolutely no time to myself. I'm going to spend a lot of time on Greyhound. I'm going to be going to these shows. Yes, I'll be getting experience, but there has to be a balance. Like, I have to be able to pay to live in a place and to eat and to, have clothes when my clothes wear out and the travel fees. And he just keep getting me booked on shows that didn't pay anything or didn't pay much. And I just had to keep doing them because if I said anything to anybody, they just assume I was a flake. It got so ridiculously bad that I was just like, I don't know how to get out of this. I really don't.
Now, you had mentioned something about where you had noticed that there was some sort of a pay discrepancy?
Yes. It made me think there might be several occasions where this happened, especially on the no pay shows. We got booked for a doubleheader. So, and by we, I mean, we both got booked, but we were not booked as a team. So I was actually booked to wrestle one-on-one. We were supposed to do BTW in Fremont on Friday, and then Saturday we were going to drive up to Reno for Pro Wrestling Destination, company you're familiar with.
Yeah.
and by that expression, I'm sure they know why you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Moving on. As you were saying, Lil.
Right. So Jenna Lynn was booked to appear versus Davina Rose at BTW.
Bailey,
yes. Everybody will know her as Bailey. She's from my area, and I started training at BTW, which I don't know too much about their training methods because I never trained there, but one thing that they did do for their very small female population of one was they brought in stars for her.
Yeah.
She wrestled a ton of people who had time on WWE. Is it any surprise she's where she is now?
Yeah.
She got good experience. So I got to wrestle her at BTW, and I lost by a narrow margin. And then we were going to wrestle again at PWD, and that one was for the belt. My first and last title shot. That night didn't go as well as I'd hoped. She did a version of the Twist of Fate that didn't go right. The first night when she did it, everything was cool, you know. Yeah, I took a big bump and it was hard, but
so there was a twist on the face.
Yeah, and I'm again don't know what happened. All I know is that when she took me down, it was her version of it, so it was slightly different. Most of the time, Twist of Fate, the person's going face down, right?
Right.
No, this was me going back. It was a back bump.
Interesting.
So the first night was great. It went over great, but the second night, something went wrong, and she twisted her body on the go down so that she ended up under me as I took the back bump. So the end of our match was shoot. Past that point, there was no acting. It was not a work. When I went down, the very base of my skull hit the tip of her pelvic bone. So, and if you've ever seen her, she's got a decent set of hips on her,
yeah, she does.
But she does not have a lot of fat. So that hip bone, that's all I felt.
Yeah.
It went straight to here and did like a metal iron bar thunderclap right through the skull. I instantly lost my vision. I could not see. Everything went black, and there was like this emptiness, just kind of a sensation. I instantly tasted metal and blood, although there was no blood. I just kept tasting like there was blood everywhere. And I was so scared. I'm like, oh, head injuries, that's career-ending stuff. I didn't know how bad it was going to be, didn't know if I was going to get my sight back, couldn't get up right away. I was starting to get tingly all over. And so I just kind of laid there, and I'm like, oh God, please let it come back, please let it come back. And I'm like rocking, and I'm like, please, do I have any control left? They held me out of the ring, and we go into the back, and I get to sit down for a while. I think I was just too out of it. I don't even think I asked her what happened.
This is Dustin Ardine's mom, who was seeing you. She's a nurse, right?
Nobody came. No, I don't remember anybody coming to tend me. They just kind of sat me back there and like water and just sit down for a while.
Okay.
I don't think anybody tended to me.
Okay.
But then again, like I was knocked pretty hard, so if somebody tended to me, I don't remember it. I recovered a little bit more, and on a trip to the restroom, my big thing is, you know, when you get to the locker room, be one of the boys. I always dress in the locker room with the boys. I try to be as respectful as possible. So like, you know, if I'm wearing a thong, ass to the wall. I don't just sit there and like hang out in my underwear so they can all really take a good look. Just like dress quickly and just be one of the boys and move on. So I did my dressing, and I was going to go to the bathroom to take care of the stuff you couldn't take care of in the locker room. But that was the only reason to leave the locker room, is because you have to go to the actual restroom. Like, you always stay in the locker room because you never know when they're going to need something else. It's good for them to just be able to find you until they release you.
Exactly.
So that if they need something, you're there, instead of, hey, I need this person, they're not here, and then all of a sudden you got to
So
back
you
up.
get that envelope with the payment in your hands?
Right.
It ain't over.
So that was my thought, is that you stay where they can find you, even if, you know, you think your job's over. Well, I went to the restroom, and on the way, it just so happens the guy with the pay happens by. The guy's like, oh, wait, you and, you know, the subject, you guys are traveling together, right? I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like, well, can you give pay?
Pardon me.
It's okay. It's late. I'm a night owl, sorry.
It is.
Like, can you take care of the pay? Here's for both you and him. And I go, okay. And I would have just not thought anything of it. I would have just handed it over and let him give me my bit. He goes, so there's 100 in there for you and 100 in there for him. And I'm like, okay, thank you. I went to the bathroom, and I'm like, I know enough that I go, okay, on the indie level, I just saw how many people are in that audience. First off, even if I was promised 50, any reasonable promoter would have probably tried to get me down to like 15 or 20, knowing how many people showed up. It was not a decent sized crowd. So somebody was seriously paying out of their bank account. It was not coming out of the profits from the show, for sure.
Dustin's mom.
But hey, I'm happy to get it because you don't get paid much on the other shows. So I was like, whatever. 50 seemed really good, but I'm like, if they have that few people out there, and I know I should probably be getting less than 50 because the amount of people that showed up, even for a title match, there's no way that they bumped my pay by 100%. Like they doubled it, just because. That seems unlikely. So I put it together in my head. I'm like, again, no proof of this, but he told me 50 and they told me 100. So now I'm like, so was I going to go home with 50 for this? And he was going to go home with 150. And he's controlling my finances so that I have little to no options. I already complained that, hey, you keep booking on shows where I don't get paid and I can't work other jobs. So he started to like throw me a bone, I guess. And now I'm like, all right, well, if he did that on this show with such a decent payout, is it possible that all these other shows where I got paid little to nothing, that maybe I was supposed to get paid, but they handed him the pay packet and he distributed, and distributing means, oh, you're getting experience for this show. Yes, I was. But if they were willing to pay me, I was definitely willing to take it because I needed it badly. And now I don't know. I don't know how many times he did that.
Wow. Things that make you go home.
You don't know for sure.
Yes. So now, to your comfort level, I want you to kind of detail some of the infamous events which took place between you and this subject. Particularly the one that took place out in Las Vegas.
Or all of them that took place in Las Vegas.
Just kind of like, just kind of give us like a brief.
Vegas and me have a bad history when it comes to the subject. Whenever he's there, it just seemed like what I've learned is as a person guilty of repeated domestic abuse and domestic violence, his escalating triggers are drinking and gambling, and you put somebody in Vegas and you got double whammy. So during my second ever Cauliflower Alley, I ring announced that show like I'd done the year before, but this one I did solo, so it was like a huge deal for me, amongst legends and people who were like complimenting me and telling me how great I was, and giving me advice and tips and things like that. I felt pretty good. It's, I'm a rookie in the business, but I'm a vet on the mic because I'd been doing it way before wrestling, and I'm like, that makes me feel wonderful that what I developed is something that's pleasing.
Right.
After party used to always be like up in the bowling alley bar. That used to be the place where everybody would hang out, and I'm a night owl already, and my system was going wacky from just being excited being at Cauliflower Alley, and so like we're getting into the wee hours to where, if you go to bed now, you probably won't wake up before the seminars. So you might as well just not go to bed.
Yeah. Who goes to Vegas to actually do any work?
Right. And like, you're not really getting the hotel room, really. You're not, that's just a place to throw your crap.
Right, exactly. Storage, basically.
Nobody needs a nice hotel room in Vegas. So we're at the bar, and where I'm at, I'm like on the very corner seat, so completely visible to the bowling alley and pretty much visible to most of the bar. The bartender's being super cool with us, and there's like at least 15 wrestlers who are still kind of around. There's a couple that have been talking to me who are here, and at the point that this happened, we had already broken up, and he just begged and begged and begged. He's like, please let me at least stay in your room, like money's tight, I can't. So just in case you knew this, we went backwards. The stuff I was just talking about was at near the end of the 2 years. This is like right at the middle-ish. He badgered me about staying in the room because he didn't have money, whatever, and I had already got a room. I'm like, okay, well, I normally get a room with 2 beds because there's so many, like, of my brothers who just, they don't have a lot of money. So I'm like, if we have an extra bed, then we can split costs and whatever. So I always got a room with 2 beds just in case somebody was like at a loose end. At least they'd have another bed to sleep in and they could help me split the room. Well, I hadn't, nobody had asked at this point, or those who had asked, I'm like, hey, so-and-so's got a space too. You might be more comfortable with them because it's a dude and a dude, not you and me. And so, like, most of my brothers, I'm like, if there's another place for you to stay, I totally understand, because it's, if we stay in the room together, rumors. But the bed's there if you got nowhere. And I was just like, no, we're broke up. You can't do that. And he just wouldn't let it go. Phone call, all night long, all day. I was like, fine, okay, but we're not together. You can take the other bed. just chill, that we're not together. That didn't go well.
So what happened?
He got pissy about the fact that I wouldn't be in the same bed with him or wouldn't be intimate with him or any of that stuff. I'm like, well, we're not together. This was a favor to you because you kept badgering me. Here's the damn second bed. Go. And so now we're at the bar and he's trying to get me to leave. I didn't realize that I've already triggered the pattern of behavior that he saw his father do to his mom. Now that he's worried about losing the girl, he's got to find ways to rope her back in. So this means trying to keep me away from as many guys as possible. So he started getting loud and yelling, and he accused me of being a ring rat. Like, he came up in my ear like he was going to whisper, but he's yelling. So it's going through my head and out to the whole bar. And he's saying, none of these guys really want to, either he'd say none of them want you, or they don't care about you, or they all just want to sleep with you. He'd basically go both ways. So I'm like, well, which is it? Like, first off, we're just talking. Everybody has their clothes on. There's nothing happening here. And even if there were something happening here, you and I are not together. He'd get upset about all of that, just keep just throwing stuff at me. He wanted me to, he's like, well, I know that you get really tired, so you need to come back and go to sleep so you'll be up for the, I was like, all right, hold on a second. We're not together. How I decide to conduct myself, whether or not I get enough sleep or make it to the seminars in the morning, is entirely up to me. I am actually enjoying meeting new people, something I don't get to do when we're stuck in our neighborhood. I want to talk to these people and have fun and joke and laugh and enjoy being here. This is what I'm doing. And he goes, well, if you stay here, we're not together. I'm like, we already aren't together. And he's like, well, we won't be friends anymore. And I'm not even going to be in the room when you come back. I'm like, okay. So he did a leave and come back a few times. After the second time of like screaming at me and just accusing me, I was so embarrassed. The guy who's sitting next to me and the bartender both look at me and they're like, do you need help? Do you need me to call someone? And I'm so freaking soft-hearted and thick at this point. I still don't get how bad it's already become and how bad it's going to get. I go, nah, he's probably done by now. I'm like he texted me all this crap, but I'm like, you know what though? Now that he's gotten to the point where he's screaming in my ear in a public place and calling me names, and I really don't think I want to go back to my hotel room. I just hope he doesn't rip up my stuff while I'm not there, so I come back to like shred it, anything. So I'm like, so at this point, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, but I'll save my spot. I'll be right back here at the bar. Like, I'm gonna hang out here all night. Maybe I'll just go straight from here to the seminars because I'm not going back to the room and being alone with him. That's not happening. Fateful last words. I went to the women's room, and for the bowling alley, like most of them, nice long stretch, right? Bathrooms here, bathrooms there, bars here. So the nearest bathroom was the farthest one from where we enter to the casino. So I just took off for there, and I had this feeling like a premonition, I guess. It's just this kind of I know something, but I don't know what I know. As I was walking to the bathroom, I looked over my shoulder real quick, and I could have sworn I saw someone his shape and size possibly coming back. And I go, no, probably not. Whatever, I'm just going to the bathroom. It's not like he can go in there, and I'll be back to the bar, and the bartender and the guy are already worried about me, so things will be cool. He's probably done for the night. I get into the women's room, and there's like 3 or 4 stalls. So I get in the first stall. There's like a woman in the second stall already. And within a short period of time, I hear a very familiar voice. And it is not outside the bathroom. He's actually walked into a public restroom, a women's restroom.
That takes balls.
Well, that's debatable. And I know you know what I mean by that. It certainly takes lacking of brains, that's for sure.
Or common sense or decency.
Right. So he's now in a public women's restroom, and he is yelling at me. I'm like, are you nuts? Like, this is the women's room. You can't be in here. what are you doing? And he just kept going and going. And I'm like, there's a woman in the stall next to me. And I don't know what to do. So I'm like trapped in the stall. He's just, ranting and raving, and he takes off. And then, like, the woman, I think she was freaked out too. Because she doesn't know, like, if it goes bad, he could, if he was suicidal or, homicidal or, like, take everybody with you. What, yeah. Right? Like, you're a witness. Well, I don't know. We have no idea. Once somebody gets to that point, you don't know where they're ready to go to. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, it's bad, but I still haven't kicked in completely to how bad it is. She comes out of her stall after he's come in a couple times, and she's like, do you need me to go get somebody? I'm like, yes, please. Do you know where the bar is in the bowling alley? The bartender and one of the wrestlers at the bar already know what's going on. Will you please go back and tell the bartender what's happening? Tell him I'm here and I need help now. I'm thinking they'll get somebody over here, or they'll keep him from coming back in because they know who it is. They've seen him, like they watched him like screaming at me all night. And so she says, okay, but then silence, and there's nothing, and it feels like forever, and I'm waiting, nobody comes back, and I'm like, okay, that's bad. I would expect at least help to come back. Mm-hmm. And now I don't know, can I leave? And so I kept waiting, and I'm like, all right, it took so long, I finally come out of my stall. I'm like, all right, well, maybe it's fine. Maybe they've fixed it. So I go to the sink, and I've got the little corner near the stall I was just at, and I put my stuff there, and I'm starting to clean up, and then just as I'm there, he comes back in, and I'm like, I don't know if she called for help, like she said she was going to. I don't know if she just took it as her chance to run and save herself, if she thought maybe she saw him coming when she came back out. I don't know. Like, she was in her stall, so how would she know what he looks like? I don't know. But I was just like, I don't know if she went and got help at all. I really don't. I had a teeny little flip phone, and I was just like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, do I want to call the cops? I'm like, the bartender's right there. All I have to do is walk right back out, right? And everything will be fine. But now he's in the bathroom, and I am not in the stall anymore. So I don't have the protection of walls. Mm-hmm. I'm literally just open. So he comes, and so we got stall wall here, and we got the sink which goes to there, like there's just a couple sinks, and I'm pretty much already in a corner. He comes and literally stands over me and arms are out, like trying to make himself bigger. Mm-hmm. And he's like waving about, and he's screaming at me again, and he's like getting right up in my ear and just shy of touching me, but I'm scared crapless now, because that can only mean one thing to me. I'm like, now that you're starting to use your body to intimidate me, I'm freaking scared, because I just remembered, oh yeah, you weigh 130 pounds more than me, and you're at least 6-7 inches taller. So regardless of how many hours he didn't spend in the gym, he's still a guy, he's still a big guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is probably not a good situation now, and I'm starting to cry, and I'm shaking, like visibly shaking, and I'm huddling, and I'm just trying, I'm doing the best child's pose I can, like I'm trying to protect my head, because I figured what's coming next is he's going to start hitting me, and I just want to like, just protect your head, right. Maybe you'll get out of this. And he would scream, but then he didn't touch me, and then he would leave. And so like I'm sniveling and still, tears, and the makeup's running everywhere. And I'm waiting again, like in the stall. I'm like, is help coming now or not? I wait, because I'm afraid to move. And then I finally go, okay, well, I'm going to try to clean up and take care of this. I have to get back to the bartender. Somebody will help. I don't think she called for help. So I'm starting to clean up, and then he comes back in again, and I'm like trying to grab my stuff, and I'm backing away, and there's nowhere to go. There's only one entrance. So he's standing in it. He starts getting so upset. The more I back away, the more he tries to come at me, and he started punching like dispensers and the mirror and throwing stuff. And like he backed me so far into the corner, and he grabbed me. That's how I ended up with bruises along my arms, because he grabbed me so hard trying to restrain me and keep me from leaving. I kept trying to walk around him, and he wouldn't let me, and so I kept backing up, because I'm like, I can't get around you. I'm gonna back into the corner. I don't know what else to do. And I'm still thinking, I know he's got a daughter and a family, who probably doesn't want to see him in jail. But at this point, I'm like, is that my only option? Do I have to put him there? Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying not to get the police involved to some extent. I want help, but at the same time, like, I feel bad sending you to jail, but I'm scared out of my mind now. And he grabs me, he's trying to pull me in whatever direction, so I dropped to the floor, trying to utilize some of the wrestling training of don't help them if you don't want to go. So I dropped to the floor, and he still had a hold of my arms, and he tried to drag me up off the floor, and because he had thrown so many things, he broke pieces of mirror and things. So some of the shards got stuck in my knee. And when they found me, there was blood trailing down my leg, and I'm like, why are you bleeding? Wow. I'm like, that's a good question. I really don't know. And I found the shards and stuff. He couldn't get me to stand up. I would not stand up and walk out. He just kept trying to drag me and wouldn't work. So he'd go in, come back, and then, it had gotten to that point where it was just crazy. So he took my purse, which I was clutching with dear life, had my phone and some other breakable stuff in it that would have been useful. Phone would have been really useful right about then. He just snatched it out of my hand, threw it across the wall behind him. It went everywhere. I'm lucky I still had a phone after that. And he just kept coming at me. So finally I'm like, you don't have a choice. Like your mom said, if you go from location A to B, you can consider your life over. Mm-hmm. You scream like your life depends on it, and you don't stop. And so I started, I was like, that was the first time I finally really fighting back. I screamed at the top of my lungs for the police. I screamed for help. I screamed fire. I screamed everything I could possibly scream. No, don't touch me. Go away. Stop it. Help me. Somebody get the police. Call the police. I screamed everything in the world. He's like, oh, it's going to be like that? It's going to be like that now? That's what he started doing. Mm-hmm. Like two guys doing the old, chest bump fight of old. And I don't know how long that took. It just felt like it was forever. But he kept trying to come back, and then at some point, help must have been called. It must have taken a while. Maybe she did go and she told the bartender, who then had to go through wrestlers who might have said, hey, I know she's with so-and-so that she did the show. She's with this promoter. The promoters they're coming down. They had come down because actually another one of the wrestlers got into an incident with somebody, which I will not discuss. Yeah.
That's another story for another time.
I won't discuss it now because I don't know how it ended up being funny later, but at the time it was not. So they were coming down for that, and on the heels of that being already over, this was unfolding. So maybe it was just coincidence that they came down at the same time with security. And I think there was a male into the restroom first, and then a female. I know there was a male and female officer. But I was kind of so out of it. I thought maybe they were police. I was just tears. They were really awkward with me. They came in looking at me like, what the hell's your problem, kind of a thing. And I'm like, I'm on the floor. I'm bleeding. I'm shaking. I'm crying. I'm trying desperately to gather my things, but I have no coordination left because I'm shaking so bad. And I'm like, I don't even know how to answer them at this point. That would have been the end of the ordeal, but they got me out of there. The promoters ended up having to put me in their room. I don't know why they didn't just kick him out of my room and send him to jail, or at least kick him out of my room so I could go back to my room. So they ended up putting me in their room with their daughter, and then they took him back to my room. They had to call in Rick Luxury. They called in Luna and her husband. I don't know who else was called in, but those were the two people that were confirmed that they called them down to deal with him because he started going off the deep end saying, I'm going to commit suicide. And he was trying to write a suicide note to his daughter. And he kept trying to run at the window or some crap. And I was just hearing all these weird stories come back from that. And so for hours on end, they were on suicide watch. They called in a couple wrestlers to kind of watch the door. And then at some point later in the day, I woke up in the room kind of awkward and alone, and I decided to go take a shower and try to clean up and then go find somebody. And I was still it was still in shock. I was still kind of shaking. I really felt like a beaten dog. And tail tucked and everything, because when I went back up to the memorabilia room, I just remember thinking, I just want to find a friendly face. I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it, because I just put myself back in that moment, and I remember how horrible it felt. It was just the most frightening thing, because you watch TV and movies where you see that stuff and you go, yeah, that happened to somebody, but you don't think that'll be me someday. And you can portray only so much as an actor on TV, but when you're in the situation, it's 10 times worse than they make it look. You really feel like the world's closed in around you. You feel like people do not care. They don't want to know. And what I found out is some people didn't want to know. People I thought I could count on as friends or brothers, at least just from being in the business together. Just kind of wanted to, I don't want to be in the middle of that.
Don't want to be involved.
Drama. And I'm like, I guess I can't blame them. Nobody wants to be in the middle of that. But I would have thought in that situation, they would have at least said, we need to protect our sister. We need to keep that guy the hell away from her. He does not deserve to be here among real men and wrestlers. And I didn't feel that. And I some of it's perception. I felt, like the promoter and his wife were very helpful. In fact, they were willing to step forward on me when I finally got the restraining order. But it just felt very lonely. I don't feel like any of those wrestlers would have stood there and watched him beat me. But I still felt like they're like, well, unless that happens, I don't want to know. That sounds like your business, kind of a thing. And that's why I felt really isolating even more, that I'm like, now that people know what he is and what he's capable of, I still feel isolated, like there's no help really. And that's why it continued for like another freaking year. And it got worse and worse and worse, to where like he tried to strangle me, got on top of me and tried to strangle me, and he looked like he was enjoying it. Would put me in the car and purposefully be drunk, and would try to drive at high speeds crazy to kill us. He tried to pull over a Greyhound bus coming out of Vegas. The Vegas story, I said I would share that one with your audience, because I hadn't shared that with anybody else yet. So there were a couple of Vegas trips. Everybody's pretty aware that the big Samoan family has suffered quite a few tragedies in years past. And we had been working at Knox Pro. In fact, I became like the favorite valet to hate down there. I did such a wonderful job being a hateable valet. It got to the point where Rikishi even hugged me, and he called me family, and he said, hey, we're getting ready for India next. You better have your stuff together. That was a possibility. He actually said that to me, and I don't think the trip ever happened, but just that he even said it was like, I don't think he throws that crap out there for no reason. And that made me feel so good. I was working with this group of people, and because, this is partially Rikishi's place, we were considered family by being part of their wrestling family. And so when Eddie Umaga died, it was a huge deal. And they said, come, they had 2 different funeral days. They had like a really small one and then a big one, and we were supposed to come down for that. Well, at that point, it was really near the end. I was already living in that, we're going to fast forward again, this is very near the end. I was living in that first situation he had set up for me, and I was supposed to be getting ready to go for the weekend, and the other boys, I think they weren't going to be able to come, and now I was really freaked out, because I'm like, it's just him and me in the car then, and the hotel. I'm just like, please let him be more focused on the funeral than anything else. Well, it's just fateful. The Friday that we're supposed to leave, I came down with either a cold or a bad allergic reaction that mimics a cold. So I was really sick. But it was Umaga's funeral. I mean, these are brothers and sisters, and like those things get to me. I'm like, I can't just not show up. Maybe I don't shake hands with everybody because I'm sick, but I can't just not show up. That seems wrong. So I was still planning to go. I was packed and ready to go, and he gets there to pick me up, and it's obvious that I'm sick. He spent his time before, during, and after the car ride blaming me for getting sick on purpose, as if that somehow did anything to the trip. He literally said, "You did this on purpose." I'm like, what? How does one even do that? What did I go, like, find the first kid who was coughing and like, hey, can you give me a little tongue right now so I can get sick? No, like, how does someone get sick on purpose? There was no rain. It's not like I could stand out in the rain all night.
I don't want to know.
So that was the first. I'm like, I don't even know where that's coming from. We get down there. The funeral is, I don't know. It's just like I got to go up, step up and see him, and like the size of his hand could dwarf mine. And I felt for his wife and his kids who got up to speak, and for the whole family. I was just like, God, they have such an amazing history in this business, and to have lost so many members in such horrible ways, that's just got to be beyond devastating.
Yeah.
And I cried. Yeah. I cried because I felt for them, and I was just like, he's done a lot for this business, his family's done a lot for this business, and these people, they're sort of like Mexican families. Like when they get all together, I'm like, family's super important. Mm-hmm. It's clear how much they love each other. Look, they made an effort to show up. And then of course, we had luncheon, so they came over to us and they're, hey, got the big luncheon at so-and-so place, make sure to go there. And you go, but get there early and go feed yourselves right away, because if you wait for us to eat, you ain't gonna get any. Mm-hmm. Like joking about it. I'm like, that's pretty funny. The size
of some of them dudes, I'm quite sure they can put away a couple plates.
I'm like, I'm glad you can have a sense of humor about that. Mm-hmm. I would have never pointed that out. So, that was supposed to be that, but then, that was fine. I got to sit with people, I got to talk with Rosie a little bit, and just see and meet a lot of people, but I was still feeling really under the weather, so, I'm already stuffed up, and now I'm crying too, so it's even worse. But there was still like the hotel room night to deal with that happened, and much like every other time in Reno or Vegas or anywhere we went, if there happened to be a hotel room involved, there was going to be some sort of a problem. This is the similar thing that happened when we went to Pro Wrestling Destination. We had taken Brutus, our beefcake up there, mm-hmm. and we had a hotel that night, and both times I ended up doing the same thing, and it did not work both times. He got to the point where we're in the room and I don't want to sleep in the same bed with you. I don't want you to touch me. Just leave me alone. I just want to sleep. And he was not cool with that. He just kept, begging for sex or saying, well, why don't you just let me do what I want to do? I'm like, what am I, like a blow-up doll? Just you're awful to me all the time. You blame me for getting sick, and I'm sick. So just, why don't you stop?
Chill.
Like, he just kept going, and I can't even remember half the stuff. He just accused me of everything under the sun. He'd yell at me and scream at me, wouldn't stop, would not go to bed, wouldn't shut up. There was nothing I could do about it. And my response is to shut down and stop talking, because I'm not going to get excited and raise my voice and start yelling back at you and get myself even more worked up, because there's no win, so I might as well save my energy. And it got so bad, I'm sitting there like huddling in my covers going, what can I do? What can I do? Like, if I go for my phone, I just feel like he'll know, and that'll be the end of it. He'll be on me so fast I won't get out of here. I'm in my night clothes. Like, for some divas, that's like a little bra and panties. I don't do that for regular night clothes. Mm-hmm. So I was just wearing, like a little shorty thing, but like covering to here. It was just like a midway nightie. It wasn't like granny stuff, and it wasn't like hotter than hell. It was just somewhere in the middle. It was decent, mm-hmm. but not decent enough to be out in public. And I thought maybe he was about ready to kind of sort of take it down a notch a minute, and as soon as I felt like maybe he didn't realize what I was doing or thinking, I knew I wouldn't be able to grab my phone. I'm like, I have no choice. So I bolted out of the bed, out the door, and I like was frantically looking up and down the hallway, where can I go? Because I didn't think I'd make it down to the lobby. So I'm like, what if the doorways are deep, and some of these, like this, a lot of them are very deep. So I thought, well, how about I'm going to run as far as I can, mm-hmm. and I'm going to find a deep doorway, and I'm going to like huddle against the door, so when he looks up and down the hall, he won't be able to find me. And maybe he'll just like go back in the room and destroy things, or he'll go downstairs and look and then give up. I'm like, it may mean that I don't get my stuff back tomorrow. It may mean I get stranded here. I don't know. But at this point, I just don't want to let it get to where it's any worse than this. And so I found a doorway all the end of the hall, and I laid in it and like got away from but he went up and down that hall and looked and he found me. I should have gone for like the emergency exit stairwell or something. I'm like, I don't know. So now I'm here. I'm like, okay, but this is still an opportunity. If I just go, you know what? You've gone this far. You needed to get out of that room. You needed to be out of his presence. You needed to not let it get to the point where he beats the living shit out of you. If you stay near this door, and if you're lucky, there's someone in here trying to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And if he gets loud with you, like you know he's gonna, that person's gonna come to the door, or they're gonna call up management, go, hey, there's something going on in the hall. Someone will get up here right now, and it'll be on record. We got a witness. This guy was doing this. I don't know what the hell, but like this needs to stop. You'll get your help. But I was just I'm scared to death of it, but at the same time, I'm also like, my thought is, I hate to put some innocent bystander in the situation where now they have to be a witness.
Mm-hmm.
And from some of the reactions of people who didn't want to know, I felt like, for all I know, maybe they come to the door and they don't give a crap. They just want the noise to stop. They don't care. He started getting up there, and I let him force me back to the room. I didn't know what else to do. He finally kind of went to bed, but I tried that at the Reno hotel we were at. That didn't work then either. That one though, like he gotten really upset, so he took the remote control and he threw it at me, and it hit the wall just above my head. I mean, he's a piss poor shot, but he threw it at me and it shattered. And so I was just like, it just kept getting worse and worse, and the suicide threats, and like, you guys don't see this, but I did show him, I still kept it, the photo image he sent me of him supposedly trying to slice his wrist. Yeah, he had sent me a picture of him like handling pills and some other stuff, which I then sent to our promoter, who then sent it to his tag team partner, who sent it to his ex-brother-in-law, which I assume means his ex-wife saw at some point, and we were always like, can you reach his mother? I didn't realize at the time that she had the same thing done to her, and I feel like maybe she doesn't think that those things fall under abuse. I think she thinks that those things fall under, well, relationships have their ups and downs, and if it's bad, just get out. Like, yes, get out is good for the girl, but if it's not just you two aren't a good match, and there's this level of lying, manipulating, suicide threats, assault, trying to force me to perform oral sex, trying to force his hands up my thighs in the car when we got two wrestlers in the back with us, we're on our way to a gig. Like, he would try to force me to like do PDA with him in the back locker room. Like, no, when we're at work together in the locker room, we're not kissing, we're not hugging, we're not making out, we're working. I want the boys to respect me, so whatever our relationship is, it doesn't belong on the show in the locker room. But he would come up like you are now, so you're me, and he would have to assert his territory. So I'd be like maybe with guys who were already my tag team partners before, and he would come up and he'd do this. And he would just sit right here with his lips pursed, and all the guys are watching, and he'd just sit there, and I've known it from saying no before. If I say no, it means he's going to cause a scene. So either I have to perform physically whenever he demands it, or he gets to cause a fight. Either way, I'm mortified, and I don't know that I keep the respect of boys in the locker room.
Okay.
I think that hurts a lot more than a lot of other stuff, is that I came to wrestling because I love it. Love it so much. I mean, I've not had the perfect training record, not the perfect career, but I love this business so much. And for him to use that as a hook to keep me abused and to manipulate me, and then to ruin the experience on top of that. Once we separated, even, like, I'd get reports from LA and other people were like, he comes down here and he badmouths each other wrestlers to promoters every chance he gets. He tells all these stories about you to so-and-so and so-and-so. Meanwhile, I'm the one who's supposed to go away and shut up about it, forget it. But now they're reacting like, oh yeah, it was okay for him to go and say what he wanted, to keep your name on his website like you still work at his show. It was okay for him to do all those things, say whatever he wanted about you, but you have to keep your mouth shut because you're a liar. You're not allowed to say anything. He can say whatever he wants and it's okay, but if you say anything, then we all get to attack you, and we get all his friends and fans to attack you too. I'm like,
which is not fair.
which, interestingly enough, I can't ever say that I know his family well, because in the 2 years that I shouldn't even say in a relationship, because we weren't even dating for the full 2 years. Most of the time it was off because it was just bad. It was just him manipulating me and obligating me to wrestling shows that now I'm like, I'm stuck. But in all that time, I didn't get to really know them very well. We weren't in close proximity most of the time, but I've never said a bad word about his mom or his sister or any of his relatives, or even when he was at his worst, I would not even devolve into calling him names. That was that had nothing to do with him. That was with me. Like, my mom had taught me that. She's like, she had been in bad relationships. She's like, whatever you do, it is never a good idea to get in an argument and start name calling. Nothing good is going to come of that. So remember to hold your tongue on that. Use real words. Use productive sentences. Don't call people names. Doesn't matter what they're doing. If it's, if it's gotten to the point where you can't talk, back away. And so even when he's calling me a ring rat and a whore and accusing me of cheating with every guy under the sun, I'm not name calling him back. I'm still trying to be logical, but it's not work. And I just got to the point where I was afraid to call my family. I'd have to sneak calls to them. And then he'd come in the room and I'm like, I gotta go. And you know how a mom feels when she hears her daughter's afraid for her life and then goes, I gotta go. She's afraid.
It's an unsettling feeling.
She's afraid. She's dead. I'm not gonna see her again. She's 3.5 hours away. We're not gonna get there in time. The cops aren't gonna get there in time. That's what she's thinking. And that's where we were. And now we're where it's several girls later. I've had at least 2 of them come forward. One way back then, right after me, and one just now, and said, hey, he's been doing this, this, and this, and he was telling me all these things about you, but now I don't know if it's true. So I'm like, yeah, that's part of the pattern. He lies about the ex previous. He told me awful things about his wife. I don't know if they're true, never met her. He's telling them how awful I am, so that they'll want to be the better girlfriend, the saving girlfriend who would be better than the last girl. And she goes, he told me all this stuff, but now he's trying to make me into you, and he came to my place of work and he threatened to do stuff. My coworkers want to call cops on him. It's the reason I got the restraining order, because I was afraid for myself, but at the same time I'm like, if he's doing this to me, I already know enough from other domestic violence situations that it's not because of me, it's him. And I know that his father did the same pattern. His mother had told me that. His grandmother had told me that. And whatever they like to term it as, he clearly learned it from watching how his parents were.
Right.
And it's something that needs to be treated by a professional. It's not going to get fixed. So that means after me, the next girl's going to get it, and it's going to get worse with every girl. Just worse and worse and worse. And it is. And we're not talking years ago now. For me, the main stuff was years ago. For them, it's still happening.
Wow.
Stalking behavior and that sort of a thing. And so part of the reason that I started speaking up was my recovery, but also for people out there who are dealing with it. And I've seen more than enough girls in wrestling suffering under this thing. And girls aren't the only ones. Sometimes the girl's the abuser, but more than often than not, it's the girls. And with the guys being bigger, the consequences of having the guy be an abuser of a girl they're just so much more catastrophic.
Right.
There's some stuff you just can't come back from.
Mm-hmm.
So, had to speak up at some point, and it's scary because, at some point they did start attacking me for doing it and saying that I'm lying and trying to say that I did this, that, and the other that is not even within my character to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I can't defend myself against you guys. I already know how you grew up, how your situation was, so I know that you have a mindset that either it never happened or whatever it was wasn't that bad, and the problem was you just should have left.
Mm-hmm.
You're the problem, just go away. So the girls who are going through it and will go through it, those are what's important. I don't want it to get to the point where he's escalated so bad that someone doesn't make it out.
Right.
And I think people sometimes maybe think I'm being over dramatic about that. I'm like, there's nothing over dramatic about an abuser. Just like knowing, hey, the serial killer started off torturing animals.
Yep, and it escalates.
It goes from there. There's a mindset and a behavior pattern, and there was no way. The stuff he did to me was crazy.
Yes.
Crazy. Made no sense. But he learned it. It's all he knows how to do. There's nothing real about him. It's all, everything he does, no matter what you think of it at the time, is all part of a facade to manipulate you in the direction he wants to go. And that's why in the beginning you don't notice. It just seems like some of it seems okay, and then you go, but he wasn't being real. He was doing that to get me to do this. And now he's doing this to get me to go even further that way. Mm-hmm. And then you end up rewired and stuck. So.
Well, Lil, at this point, we have talked quite a bit about...
I know, so much for half an hour, right?
about,
we'll edit,
some of the horrible things, that have happened to, especially women in this business. And I'd like to commend you for coming on to our show and actually being brave enough to speak out and being a voice for women. I think Lil is going to be the first of a few. I've actually had some other women who are involved in the wrestling business who have reached out to me and will be coming on this show to share their experiences as well with this particular individual. So we plan to use this forum as a means for people to, to voice their experiences, and hopefully we can get to an end, with the situation soon. So kind of to end on a positive note before we wrap this up here.
Yes, I'm hoping.
Very quickly here, I want you to tell me, what was your most positive moment which took place for you at the Cauliflower Alley Club from this past year here?
This past year, oh my God.
If there's one moment that stands out to you, what would it be?
Oh. All right, well, you know what? In general, overall, it's anytime there was a gathering of us together, telling stories and joking, that seems to be like the whole, that's Cauliflower to me. I mean, I know there's like the awards and there's this and there's that. But all of those moments where I just got to be myself, I got to tell jokes and make people laugh, and they got to tell jokes and make me laugh. Those moments where those people got together, and these are all people who, a lot of them have seen the videos, so they already know what I was going through, and they're aware of pretty much everything. But coming to Cauliflower this year, especially since it was like a return after an absence, people are just like, we miss you, please come back. People who saw me ring announce in 08 and 09, like, you ring announced, and they'll tell me what year. Sort of like when people say, WrestleMania, this number, this happened, and like they spout off statistics like it's baseball. It was like that. I had, I sat at a table with a guy who I didn't know, but he was like, he called himself the Gopher. He does everything because he was local to Vegas. He helps them out with everything. And he turned to me and he goes, "You've done ring announcing, haven't you?" He goes, "I remember seeing you." And those moments where people are like, "I'm happy you're back. I'm so glad you're here. I remember watching you perform." Every single time somebody made me feel like I belonged there, that was my moment. That was my moment. And I didn't spend the whole week cowering over threats that had come in and all the hate posting online. Nobody heard about that during the week while I was there.
Good.
The only people who heard anything about that were the people who pulled me off to the side and were like, "All right, who is it? And is everything cool?" Or, wrestlers who were like, "Oh, he's right there, just letting you know because he's coming close." And because they were watching my back. I'm like, most of the moments didn't have to do with that at all. It had to do with what we were really there for, which is what I wanted to make it again. I wanted to feel safe going there. I hate having to stalk the room going, okay, am I safe? Do I have a peripheral, where I'm protected? Do I need to be on a different side? I hate having to do that, and I would love to go back there someday and not have to do that. But knowing that so many people now know the extent of how bad it was, there are so many more people now who maybe they didn't want to be in the middle of the drama, but now they have my back. They're not willing to let it happen again.
Good.
And especially in the same hotel. So the moment of Cauliflower was what it's supposed to be, the ring of friendship. I felt loved and wanted the whole week.
Good.
I had people check in with me, and people who were just, they talked to me about wrestling stories. I made new connections, exactly everything that someone should do when they come to Cauliflower Alley. Listening to legends talk, guys who've been 20, 30, 40, 56 years in the business. I talked to Ross Hart every year I'm there. I missed Ada this year. She kept getting away from me, but like usually she and I talk at least once every Cauliflower. Getting to see Charlie again, our referee, and then Bob Johnson comes from Canada with Ross, and he's got, you know, Stampede wrestling stories and all sorts of stuff. So like, these guys are just, they're the lifeblood of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Young, old, fresh in the business, vet in the business, legitimately going in there and having, like, actually showing real interest in somebody, like going after that story, going after a moment that's important to them so they can share with you and then you can share back. When people shared stories with me, like they spurred stories and I'm like, I have one for you that's like that. I had this story. And I realized, I'm like, people will say a lot of things about other people in wrestling because there's a lot of backbiting and everything, but I've been in the business now 10 years. It's not been a perfect 10 years by far, but I do belong here. I do have a place in it, and I have stories that I can share. I have experiences that I can share. I have things I learned that I can share, and I can always learn and have people share with me. And going back there every year and having people like, are you coming? Are you coming? You gonna be here?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel like wrestling's not closed to me. No matter where this guy shows up, I don't have to leave wrestling behind. The one thing that this is what I came for. I didn't come for the guys, I came for wrestling. You know, dating is always a side thing for anybody, whatever, work related or not. Dating is a side thing to wrestling. Wrestling is the thing. And I just want to be part of the story. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. It lights me up. God, even when it was 21-hour days doing ring crew at the top, ring crew at the end, and all the details in the middle, and the ring announcing or the valet or the rest, whatever, like if I worked the whole freaking time and was one of the first to show up and the last to leave, it sucked for the next 3 days, but God, it felt good being there.
Right.
So good.
Well, thank you for joining us, everyone, for our interview with Lil. So we are No Gimmicks, No Image, all wrestling all the time. Please like, comment, share, and make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
No gimmicks. Yeah. No gimmicks, taking over, no limits. Motivation, the truth inside everything you are hearing. Reporting live, know you feel it. Wrestling is everything that we will know with special meaning.